Hello, this is Jim Feist in Las Vegas, and it's the Friday morning podcast with Hank Goldberg. Hank is down in Florida, and I'll bet you the weather is better there because we've got 40 to 60 mile an hour winds the last 12 or 14 hours. It's pretty nasty right now. Hank, good morning.
You would win that bet. It's a beautiful day here in South Florida. And all the buzz here is about the University of Miami. I'll tell you, the Dolphins, you got to go to page 5 of the sports section of the paper to read about the Dolphins. And I'd be curious to see how many empty seats there are Sunday when the Bucs come in to play them. It's got all the interest of a preseason game.
Yeah, you're probably right. You got they don't put on a very good show, that's for sure. Both teams are having a real down year. But Pittsburgh last night played a heck of a game, and they had not been scoring a lot of points, but they sure put up a lot last night. 40 points, big win.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that right before halftime, it was a very low-scoring game, and then Mariota threw that interception, Tennessee was in reach at the half, despite that, and then he came out in the second half, and really it was the defense of Pittsburgh that set up all those scores, and then Fat Face was hot. He threw 3 touchdown passes to his number one receiver, and Tennessee was playing that man defense. And, Pittsburgh is going to beat it. That wide receiver is going to beat a man defense more often than not. What was interesting about the game? Pittsburgh came out early, and they scored an early touchdown playing in no huddle. And then they went out of the no huddle for some reason. And when they were out of the no huddle, Tennessee stayed with them. Tennessee's got some talent on that team. And don't write them off yet, because they're going to go home, and they've got 4 real easy games coming up. And I think they're going to win the next 4 games, and they're probably going to make the postseason. Now, where they go in the postseason is another story. But they don't have to, they just have to get by Jacksonville, I think, in order to win that division. And I think they will win that division.
Yeah, I don't think Houston or the Indianapolis Colts are going to give them any trouble, but we got some good games coming up on Saturday and Sunday, and of course college basketball has started off well. Last night I had a nice winner with Xavier.
College basketball. I had a good day yesterday in college hoops again, and I've been really picking them good. I like Temple today, although they were only getting 2.5 points against Auburn. But they're winning 32-31 at the half. I took the under in the game. The under was 158. But because Auburn is an automatic overplay for most people. But one thing about Fran Dunphy, he can get teams to play his type of game, which is a slowed down pace. And that's exactly what he's done so far. And remember, Auburn is playing without a couple of guys right now who they had recruited. They got a little bit of a problem there. And I like a Big East team who can get an SEC team to play their kind of ball. And that's exactly what's happening in that game. So my underplay looks great. And I just got to hope that Dunphy's defense can continue to outplay Auburn's fast break offense.
Well, should be an interesting second half, that's for sure. Early game today. We've got a lot of games on the card. We got basketball and football. We got everything going on right now, Hank. You got anything you'd like to talk about? Any games you want to really point out and feature?
Well, I think, I don't think Miami is going to stub their toe against Virginia. There's some pretty good, attractive games tomorrow. I think Wake Forest, North Carolina State's a pretty good game. Texas and West Virginia Texas has really come on in the second half of the season, and I think TCU, Texas Tech, those games are good and attractive. Penn State is playing LSU. I think they're going to bounce back strong. And, there's some UCLA Southern Cal is a big game because you've got the two quarterbacks. Rosen is back for UCLA. I think Southern Cal is playing a very high level on offense right now. And, the line reflects it. But, that's a great rivalry game, and that's going to attract a lot of attention. I'll tell you a game that I'm staying away from, but I'm going to raise a red flag on it, and that is the that's the Minnesota, the Rams game. The Rams going on the road now, and they've got a very tough schedule coming up, and this is where we're going to find out just how good Goff is. But I'll tell you something about that people don't talk that much about, and that is that the Rams' defense is excellent. And they're going in there, and this is where Keenum is going to be up against it. Remember, Keenum was a guy who couldn't make it with the Rams, and now he's a third-string quarterback. And once a third-string quarterback, always a third-string quarterback. He's been playing very much over his head. And but they've been very careful in what they've been letting him do. Last week he threw 2 picks while he had 4 touchdown passes. Now he's going up against a first-rate defense, and while he's at home, he's got to be careful not to throw any picks in that game. And his coach has put him under incredible pressure because he said early in the week he wasn't sure which quarterback he was going to play. And Bridgewater is ready to go, and they say Bridgewater has been practicing great. So he's in a position now where one mistake and he's liable to get yanked. And that's a lot of pressure on a guy who has been basically a third-string quarterback his whole life, his whole NFL life. But on the other hand, you've got a quarterback in Goff who is going up against the best defense that he's had to go against so far this year, with the exception of Seattle. And we're going to find out what he's got. And so this is a game where I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to watch it with a lot of curiosity, and I think it's a tough game to play. But but if I was going to play it, I'd probably lean toward the Rams because of their defense, and because Minnesota's run defense is probably the one weakness in there, and what is a very good defense.
It might be a good game to watch and do some in-game betting. That's the
but if you're going to bet it in advance, I would go easy. But I would lean towards the Rams a little bit, just ever so slightly. But it's a very attractive game, and it's 2 very good teams, which is a rarity these days when you've got NFL matchups. By the way, I want to make one point, and that is the ratings. The ratings right now, last week, so far this season, the ratings are off 5.7%. And that includes the dog game they had last Monday night, which did not do well. 5.7% with the lousy games they've had is not that bad. Just telling you that, the game is far from, desperate straits.
Well, it certainly will affect their advertising dollars because a lot of ratings, a lot of advertising.
I got to tell you something. I used to be in advertising, and if I saw a show that had a 5.7 drop in the ratings, it wouldn't bother me. And particularly when you've had the events that we've had going on this year, opposite. You had the storm that affected the ratings. You had, 2 hurricanes. You had the Giants, which are a terrible team this year. You had all these injuries. You've had some terrible attractions. The Thursday night games have been brutal, and still it's only off 5.7%. And if I'm selling NFL, I'm saying this is an aberration. And they've got a lot of, when these quarterbacks get healthy, the NFL will be the same old NFL, and I'm not concerned about a 5.7% dip. That's nothing.
Well, I don't think it's nothing, but I certainly wouldn't hit the panic button. It's still a good sport, and now that we're getting down to the second half of the season, the good teams are going to start to rise. I mean, you saw one of the better teams last night in Pittsburgh play their best game of the year, and in the beginning of the year, a lot of people thought that they would win the AFC. So you look at New England. New England is playing extremely well. So the better teams are starting to play better. They're rounding into shape. And as long as they can stay injury-free, those games should be very compelling. We do have one game, the Sunday night game, which is Philadelphia-Dallas, which is normally, a very big draw. But, with the Elliott suspension and the way Dallas played last week with the offensive line injuries, and, of course, Sean Lee out, Philadelphia goes in there. They opened a 3-point favorite, and now it's up to 4.5. And that's an unusual situation for a rivalry game in division for the Philadelphia Eagles to be favored in Dallas.
Well, the Eagles have won 5 of their last 7 trips down there. Here's a key stat for you. Sean Lee, when he's not playing, the Dallas defense gives up an average of 160 yards rushing per game. And when he's playing, they give up 80 yards rushing per game. That's huge. And now they're going to face not just Brown, but they're also going to be facing a Giant. That's a big, big double dip rushing that Philadelphia is going to be able to throw at them. So, and that's probably why the number is what it is.
Definitely taking money. There's no question. The Eagles are taking money. They are the poster child right now, and the way Carson Wentz is playing, it's pretty amazing. He's a young guy, and he's really picked up the NFL game very well.
Without Lee, they're going to run Dallas off the field. They're going to run those 2 backs at him all afternoon or evening, whenever they're playing. I guess it's afternoon, but that's a significant drop in run defense with one linebacker missing.
He's a pretty special player. There's no question. He's the centerpiece of that linebacker core. Anything else that you got? Horses? You got anything going on in the horse area, or this is a quiet week?
It's a quiet time for horses. I think Del Mar will have a good stake schedule. Right now, they're in transition in the East Coast, where they're moving the horses down from New York to the southern locations, getting ready for the Gulfstream and Louisiana and eventually Oaklawn, all those meets that'll be outstanding this winter. But they're still running at Calder in Florida, which is kind of a second-rate meet. So the Gulfstream is going to be open in another week or so. And, when Gulfstream gets going, they'll have some outstanding races as the 3-year-old session gets started. Start watching for those 3-year-olds and see who lines up for, the Triple Crown down the road. And, the Pegasus, which is the big race with all the horses, is going to be the 4th weekend in January. And that's going to be huge down here. So, anyway, there's some decent college basketball, some teams to continue to watch. Arizona State out west. Wake Forest is is playing. They've got a good game. There's the college football game tonight. Middle Tennessee only 3-point favorites. They're not bad. And getting ready to see what how the bowls. I had dinner last night with some people from the Orange Bowl committee, and they're wondering what's going to happen. A lot depends on who makes it into the championship game, because their deal is with the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you've got two teams in there, Miami and Clemson, and whoever goes into the tournament, and of course, I guess you lose one of those teams, so the Orange Bowl won't get one of them. They'd love to have Miami, I'm sure. And I don't know about Clemson, how good they are right now. They're kind of squeaking by teams. I don't think this is one of their better teams, although they're very good. And to say they're not one of their better teams, they're usually great. They're thinking that they may get Notre Dame down here. They will get, I think, a Big Ten team, and they could wind up with Ohio State again. Or, if Wisconsin doesn't win, gets knocked out for some reason, you could look at Wisconsin. If Miami doesn't make it for some reason, Wisconsin and Miami would be a tremendous attraction.
Yeah, there's a lot to be determined in the next couple of weeks, for sure. I have to mention that Hank's plays and mine are available at jimfeist.com. Go to the website, and we have full cards up there for college football and basketball.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Hey, Jim, before we go, I think there's an interesting matchup between Washington and New Orleans. I just want to point out one thing about New Orleans before we sign off, and that is that New Orleans, in their 7-game winning streak, has 5 of those 7 games wins have been achieved against some pretty bad quarterbacks. And I know their defense is very good, but they do have a young secondary. And now they're going up against a Washington team whose quarterback on the road has beaten 2 very good teams. And now they come in here, and the 2 teams that the New Orleans have beaten at home in that 7-game streak, or that they've been running up against, the only 2 teams with good quarterbacks have been Carolina, but they got Cam when he was in his slump, and the other one was Detroit, and and Detroit ran up 38 points against them. And I'm just suggesting that Washington might be able to beat their secondary, and Washington does have 2 good running backs, and that game might be closer than the spread indicates.
It should be a lot of fireworks in that game. Cousins has played very well this year. He may not have the team around him, but he's been putting up some pretty good numbers. Hank, like I said,
their offensive line is getting healthy, and they've got Perrine, I think that's how you say his name, is a good back, and they've got that little guy who's very quick and gets a lot of junk yardage. So I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Oh, it will be. It'll be one of the games that I'll have up on the screen, definitely, because it will be fun to watch. Hank, thank you very much, and you have a great weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday.
Okay, Jim, you enjoy yourself. I think it's going to be fun. I think the NFL's got a lot of attractive games this week, betting-wise, and so I'll be enjoying a lot of action. That's my kind of day.
Good luck, Hank, and thanks everybody for listening in.